Thank you. We'll call the Village of Cache Creek Council meeting of August 3rd, 2021 to order. And first order of business is the delegation. Mr. Brian Railton, business representative for International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 115. Mr. Railton represents the Village of Cache Creek unionized employees. The Village of Cache Creek understands the union is presenting regarding a grievance brought forward by our employees. Normally, the proceedings would be deferred to the in-camera or closed portion of this council meeting. Section 90.1, subsection C and G. The staff members which form the basis of this grievance and their union requested presentation during the open public portion of this meeting. The Municipal Legal Counsel concurs with the union's request. This council will not be responding to questions from the union or from the public relating to these proceedings. Council will be releasing the outcome as we move forward and endeavor to resolve the grievance. The floor is yours, Mr. Railton.
I move to table this issue of 2A and also item G1.
First, just let me say thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present tonight.
Thank you.
As a great introduction. My name is Brian Railton. I've been a business representative for the International Union of Operating Engineers for going on 8 years now, and have represented the employees of the village for just about 7 years, and have negotiated, I believe this is the third collective agreement I've been involved in with the village. So once again, thank you. So I'd like to just sort of preface my statements tonight by just really addressing kind of the elephant in the room. This is kind of an unusual circumstance for the union to present in this type of venue, but you may, I'm hoping, after the end of my presentation, find that we are dealing with equally unusual situations here. So, as you may know, I'll just give a quick introduction. The International Union of Operating Engineers, we represent about 12,500 members across the province of BC and the Yukon. We are a trade union. Started in construction, heavy equipment operators, crane operators, mechanics, and the likes. We moved into representing large portions of the waste industry and heavy industrial shops through the 90s, including at one point the landfill in Cache Creek here. We also represent Cache Creek Machine Shop, and of course we represent a handful of municipalities, including the Village of Cache Creek. We've actually represented the employees here in the village since 1986, and in 2018 we began representing the inside employees or administrative staff within the village office itself as a result of a organizing drive and certification that was issued by the Labour Relations Board of BC. Since the administrative staff in 2018, late 2018, certified, and into kind of the beginning of 2019, we've been dealing with sort of an ongoing escalation of bullying types of comments and actions that unfortunately boiled over on June 30th. That resulted in the union filing a grievance, which I believe is included in a book of documents that you all have here tonight. And I'd like to take a moment just to read that grievance if I can.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a letter from dated July 14th, 2021. It's addressed to the Village of Cache Creek, attention Christina Martini. And it's regarding formal grievance, bullying harassment by Councillor Annette Pittman. So it reads, please accept this correspondence as the union's formal grievance under the employer's bullying harassment policy. As the village is acutely aware, and possibly the mayor and council are aware, there has been an ongoing situation within the village affecting the members of IUOE Local 115, more specifically affecting the day-to-day work of members Alana Peters and Lindsay Armitage, perpetrated by Councillor Pittman. I think it's important to start at the beginning of this ongoing situation, which from the union's perspective started at least in the beginning of 2019, if not late 2018. At that time, a letter was circulated amongst the village residents, mayor, and councillors regarding the qualifications of my members and misinformation regarding the rights of the inside administrative employees to unionize, among many other rantings. At that time, I issued a letter dated May 21st, 2019, in hopes of addressing some of the misinformation in that letter, but more importantly, the labor rights my members exercised in joining a union in late 2018. Nevertheless, this behavior has indeed continued and escalated since then. I have attached a series of documents and pictures of this grievance, and pictures to this grievance that either Ms. Pittman has made herself or indirectly through members of her family that will help in illustrating my point. Much of what Ms. Pittman continues to attack are the qualifications and the work ethic/practices of my members. While it has never been a practice of the union to involve itself in the politics of the village, in which much of Ms. Pittman's rantings are talking about, it is the union's practice to protect its members. It is also the village's obligation to provide a safe workplace, free of bullying harassment, and at this point the union does call into question the village's ability to provide such a workplace. While this behavior by Ms. Pittman has continued, it escalated on June 30th, 2021, when Ms. Pittman had an interaction with my membership at the village office that can only be described as intimidating to the point of harassment. I have attached a statement by Sister Lindsay Armitage regarding the incident. What is not included in the statement is the aftermath of how this interaction affected her. To say she was upset is an understatement and is a completely unacceptable situation in any workplace. As a remedy to this grievance, the union requests the following. The employer shall provide the union with the most up-to-date copy of their bullying harassment policy, along with any other policies regarding code of conduct, personal and/or sexual harassment, bullying, or inappropriate conduct. In order to provide a safe, number two, in order to provide a safe and respectful workplace for its employees, the employer shall bar and/or seek an injunction barring Ms. Pittman from attending the municipal office of the village. This should also include barring Ms. Pittman from communicating either directly or indirectly with the employees. Number three, that Ms. Pittman issue a formal apology in writing to all the employees of the village, and said apology should be posted by the employer in a public location at both the municipal office and the public works office. And number four, and is being remedied tonight, that this grievance without attachments be read at the next council meeting of the village. I look forward to meeting with the village to resolve this issue. You may contact me either by phone or email to resolve this matter. Signed by myself, Brian Railton, and copy to the shop stewards and the grievers of the union. So, also included in the document that I provided is a series of social media posts made by either Councillor Pittman and or members of her family, which I submit for your review to assist in your decision making. At the back you will notice another letter from the union dated May 21st, 2019, which I also like to read, which was mentioned in the original grievance. And I'm remiss, I should have numbered the document itself, but it's on the third to last page is when this letter starts. Okay, so this letter is dated May 21st, 2019, also addressed to the village of Cache Creek. And at the time, it was attention Martin Dawson, current CAO at the time, and sent to whom it may concern. It's regarding recent statements regarding union employees of the village of Cache Creek. A number of statements and discussions regarding my members have been brought to my attention, and I hope this letter can form part of the council's next meeting. I will not involve myself with the administration of the village or any perceived conflicts of interest. However, I feel certain statements regarding decisions to unionize must be addressed for the public record. For the record, the majority of the village's employees have been certified unions since 1986, as I mentioned. Until recently, this included all employees outside the village's administration building. In the fall of 2018, the village's administrative staff made a decision to also unionize, which granted them collective bargaining rights. You will notice that I stated that the administrative staff made the decision, and I do this with purpose. for those who may not know, is a fundamentally protected right under the Labour Relations Code for workers in the province of BC to associate with the union. This decision is a decision made by workers, not by the union or any employer, and is commonly known as organizing. The decision to organize the administrative staff, except management, was made by those employees alone. It is also important to note that the process of organizing a union is also protected. Any intimidation or coercion is prohibited. This includes any discipline associated with unionizing, or most definitely termination. As a result, the two administrative staff voted in favor of becoming a union, and we set about the task of bargaining terms and conditions for those employees. Similarly to the existing collective agreement, the union sought language ensuring that there are 2 full-time employees within the village's administration. These terms and others were negotiated in good faith, all of which were voted on by the village's council. I would suggest that any financial shortcomings of the village or perceived mismanagements have nothing to do with the administrative employee's decision to organize, or the terms and conditions that were negotiated as a result. To suggest otherwise, or that employees should have been refused their right to join a union, is simply ignorant. It is also quite concerning that people may be taking aim at specific members of mine, when in fact they and all members of the union have always strived to improve the village. Additionally, I would hope that the councillors would see the value in improving the human capital within the village by educating their employees. It's been a long-standing struggle within this bargaining unit due to the fact that under previous administrations, many educational requests have commonly been refused or ignored in the past. This includes simple items like first aid or renewing certifications that the village requires. I commend the current administration on their efforts to improve this and other issues despite the current difficult situation. Finally, rest assured, the union employees of the village have always and will always put the village first. However, I will always put my members first and will protect them in every possible way. If you have any questions regarding this letter, please do not hesitate to contact me, myself, or email, and once again, signed by myself. So I presented this to you today in this form to kind of firstly show you why I'm here, and secondly kind of to show you that this in the union's mind has started and has started in 2019, has been a series of incidents that have escalated in our mind for the better part of 2 years now. And unfortunately this escalation, it's an escalation that I have to confront far too often in my job, representing, I believe I represent 46 different employers throughout my area and about 1,500 different workers myself. So where do we go from here? Well, first let me say, the village is an employer, like any other. The only real difference here is where the direction comes from. It comes from a mayor and councillor as opposed to ownership. But that being said, the same obligations apply here as they would at any other employer. And in this particular case, it's the obligation to provide a safe workplace, free of bullying and harassment. The village, it is bound by the Workers' Compensation Act. It's bound by collective agreement to do this with the union, and as a result, it's also bound to the Labour Relations Board and Code of British Columbia. So the union has filed this grievance because we do not believe that workplace is being provided. And what's worse, it's the actions of a councillor that are making it an unsafe workplace. In my experience in doing this job, it tends to start with feelings of frustration and anger, boil up into comments such as, and these are snippets from various different social media posts you have in your package, but I've identified some of the parts that refer to my membership. We need educated people in our office who do not have an attitude problem and can do their job with a smile on their face. Too bad we don't have someone in the office qualified to give you an answer. The council and mayor browbeat the public works. They don't even have to be in the office with all the negative office stuff. If the people in the village office were to do their jobs properly, we would have the pool open. Boiled over generally into comments such as, go F yourself and all your followers. These people in the office don't have the balls to tell Santo to F off. And when the position changed from part-time to full-time union, it should have been posted with qualifications prior to hiring. And I'll end with one. We have 3 unqualified women as office staff. So unfortunately, if left unchecked, these comments can escalate as they did on June 30th. This is not really unsimilar to what I would deal with at, say, an OEM truck shop where there was an abusive client. That client would, if it escalated, would eventually be asked to not attend the shop where my members would be. Or if it escalated further, they would be asked not to attend the premises at all. And they could take their business elsewhere, I suppose, if they're going to act like that. So to that end, you'll notice in the grievance that the union is seeking 4 remedies, one of which is being done tonight. But I really sincerely hope that Mayor and Council will consider and give proper direction to the village management to implement the remaining remedies. The reality of this situation is that if these remedies cannot be met, or a solution not found, the union will have no other option but to consider seeking these remedies through another source, and that source would be arbitration. And while I don't want to bore you through the entire process of an arbitration, we have met under the grievance procedure once already to CFO of the village. We plan to meet again after this meeting as step 2 of that grievance procedure, and if we do not have remedies at that point, we will have to consider those options. And I think the biggest thing to understand under the arbitration process is it's a labor relations board process. And while it's regrettable, considering kind of the difficulties the village faces right now, that I'm very well aware of, arbitrations can cost a significant amount of money. Significant. And on average right now, they're costing anywhere from $20,000 or more per party. And like I said, while it's regrettable, the union has one very serious obligation, and that is protecting its members. And it's an obligation I take very seriously. So considering, many of Councillor Pittman's concerns seem to be revolving around budgetary constraints, I hope maybe that's the one impact that we will consider as Mayor and Council very seriously. So on that note, let me just finish by saying thank you again for the time to present tonight. And I look forward to meeting with the CFO of the village as a result of your meetings, consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rilton. Council will not be given the opportunity to address questions to you this evening. And you're not going to be required to answer any questions on behalf of council. You're welcome to stay for the whole meeting. I think that that may be something that you wish to do. Thank you. That the minutes of the regular council meeting held on July 5th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Business rising from the minutes. Seeing none. Committee reports, economic development, Councillor Peters and Councillor Coomber.
No meeting, no report from me.
I will make a motion that council receive and file the letter from investing in Canada infrastructure program regarding backup well project, well number 8, that was, the grant was not approved for the village, so.
We're on item A, economic development.
Well,
Item B, we'll move right along to that one.
trying to hurry things along.
Councillor Peters and Councillor Coomber. Go ahead, Councillor Coomber.
I will make that motion.
I'll second it. Discussion. All in favor? Carried unanimously.
I'll just comment that that's unfortunate that it wasn't approved.
Policy and bylaw review, myself, Councillor Peters. Councillor Peters.
I would move that the Village of Cache Creek bylaw number 5-004 2021, a bylaw for the issuance of municipal ticketing within the Village of Cache Creek, be given first reading as presented.
Second. Discussion. Go ahead.
It doesn't seem like a solid bylaw to me. I'm a little concerned that it's not specific, and it's actually missing quite a few of the bylaws that I think should be included, like the park use bylaw, the fireworks bylaw, firearm regulation bylaw, the truck parking bylaw, the sign bylaw, water regulation and rates bylaw. I would suggest that we give it first reading in name only, but I think we need to go back to the drawing board and make it a little bit more specific. Like to say that a minimum of $100 up to a maximum of $500 for each offense under the business license bylaw. For continuing offense, not less than 100. I've looked at several examples of ticketing bylaws in other municipalities, and they're all very specific. Under each of those bylaws, they pick out different aspects that could be penalized, and they actually list them all along with the bylaw, just so there's no there's no mistake if it happens to go to court.
The information that was presented in this bylaw is actually taken directly from our bylaws. So in order to make those changes, each one of those bylaws has to change. And because we have a bylaw enforcement officer starting on the 16th of August, this is our starting point.
I realize that.
It means redoing all of our bylaws. And we have to have a ticketing bylaw in place in order for the bylaw officer to issue tickets. I
realize that, but I can't support the bylaw as it is written. We used Ashcroft and Cache Creek as our template, or pardon me, Ashcroft and Clinton as our template because our bylaw enforcement officer will be serving the 3 communities, and we're trying to keep everything as uniform as we can to expedite that. I agree that moving forward, we need to update this bylaw as we update each individual bylaws.
I have concerns because that all of these bylaws are so outdated. For example, one's from 1977. We've been in talks over the last couple of years of bringing these bylaws up to date, and thus far we haven't done anything with that.
But
so.
My point is that we cannot move forward with a bylaw enforcement officer without a ticketing bylaw, and if we don't start somewhere, we're going to be paying him for nothing.
We've had 6 months to do this.
Excuse me. Thank you.
I have a question.
Thanks, Lisa.
Can we add bylaws in the future as well then?
Yeah.
Absolutely. We can upgrade bylaws as we go.
Thanks.
This is a great starting point. We have to start somewhere. And I'm sorry if I cut you off, but go ahead.
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Anything further?
I would offer that if Councillor Peters would like, I can meet with her this week and we can go over each of the bylaws and pick out the appropriate parts and put them in this bylaw.
But the bylaws are presented in this document as they are written today.
But you need.
Thank you.
There
Thank
are
you.
more bylaws
We'll call
that
the
are
question.
appropriate in here that
Then we
aren't
can-
listed.
Excuse me?
propose amendments to
We'll
it
call the
moving forward.
question. Is there anything further?
I'd like to table it.
The motion is that a bylaw, Councillor Peter read out the recommendation. You can't table something that she's already read out. You either defeat it and then you can bring that up. Okay, all in favor? Lisa?
In favor.
Thank you. Carried.
Opposed.
Councillor Pittman and Coomber opposed.
I would move that a bylaw for issuance of municipal ticketing Village of Cache Creek Bylaw 5-004-2021 be given second reading as presented.
Second, discussion. All in favor?
In favor.
Opposed? Same opposed.
That bylaw for issuance of municipal ticketing Village of Cache Creek Bylaw 5-004-2021 be given third reading as presented.
Second, discussion. In favor?
In favor.
Opposed? Same opposed. Christina, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. Public Works and Community Facilities, myself and Councillor Defoe. Would you like me to take that, Lisa?
Up to you. Up to you.
You go ahead.
Okay, I would like to move the recommendation that council receive and file the update for well number 9.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor? In favor, Lisa?
Yes.
Thank
yes.
you. Unanimously. Wastewater, go ahead.
And under the wastewater treatment plant outfall project, the council authorized Western Water Associates Limited to carry out the specific work to relocate the Village of Cache Creek wastewater treatment plant outfall.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
In favor.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. Village Services and Liaison, Councillor Defoe and Councillor Coomber.
I have
Nothing,
no
sir.
Thank you.
report.
Protective Services, myself and Councillor Coomber.
I do have a question for you. I was wondering if what's the situation with the RCMP in Ashcroft right now?
They have a temporary commanding officer that's here for 6 months, and a group of constables that work under him that are moved from community to community, and their duration could be up to 6 months.
Are they changing the format that our detachment has?
No, they're just short members.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Cache Creek Structural Protection Unit, which was funded by the Red Cross and the Fire Chiefs Association, was deployed on the evening of July 13th to assist in the protection of the homes in the YD rural subdivision. 2 of our department members went up and spent the latter part of the late evening and early morning till early morning protecting or setting up our structural protection unit and assisting Ashcroft Fire and Wildfire up to protect the homes up in that area. And we are grateful that they were able to do that and volunteer their time. And perhaps the Red Cross and the Fire Chiefs Association are going to be happy that their dollars that they contributed to getting the structural protection unit for our fire department was used to protect homes and save homes and potentially lives up in the YD Ranch area. So for that, we thank those 2 people, those 2 groups, organizations that helped fund that unit. And I believe the unit, if anybody's interested in seeing it, is situated at the back of the fire hall right now. So we thank them. And also just a thank you, a shout out to Chief Moe and First Assistant Chief Couture for the daily fire updates. The community is grateful for their leadership and pertinent, precise, and prompt information. They took part in numerous lengthy daily fire updates that they took their own time to take part in, and based on the jargon that I'm not quite familiar with, likes and dislikes on social media, etc., their post was very well received. So thank you to our diligent volunteers, Fire Chief, First Assistant, Fire Chief.
Can you ask another question?
Yes.
The fire truck that we were going to loan to Bonaparte, has that been loaned yet?
Last time, as of last evening, it's still sitting down at the sewer treatment plant.
Okay. At the last Hat Creek Ranch Friends Committee meeting, it came up briefly, and Chief Antoine asked Hat Creek Ranch to house the fire truck over the summer because the band did not have a place to put it.
Great, good idea.
Yeah. Just thought I'd give you an update on that.
It's better than where it's at right now, so it's exposed to the elements and not being used, and repurposing that fire engine would mean a lot to the Bonaparte band and their firefighting out in the rural portion of their reserves. So they're very grateful for councils and the citizens of Cache Creek for allowing that truck to be repurposed. Anything further under protective services? Seeing none, intergovernmental relations. And again, we have a letter from Ashcroft Indian Band, and the Ashcroft Band has requested the attached letter be placed in the open public meeting. Municipal Legal Counsel concurs with the request, and this council will not be responding to questions from the public regarding the contents of this correspondence. So there's a recommendation. I move the recommendation. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Discussion.
Under my legal counsel advice, I will not be making any comment at this time.
Thank you. All in favor? Lisa?
In favor.
Thank you.
Opposed.
Councillor Pittman opposed. Thank you. LGMA guidance for adopting new electric meeting frameworks that council receive and file.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
In favor.
I just wanted to ask CFO Martini if we're going to see the annual report for Cache Creek in the near future,
I'm working on it.
because it has to go to public hearing before adoption.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Were you in favor or opposed of the last?
In favor.
Unanimous. And Landfill Advisory Committee, Councillor Coomber.
Yes. Jack Jays and myself attended the online meeting, which was also attended by Russ Black, Megan Powers, and new general manager for Waste Tech, Zara Hirani. You have the presentation that we received. If you've gone through it, you'll notice that they actually had a small fire there on the 30th, that infamous day that it reached 49 and 49.5 degrees in our area. It was 49 degrees at the landfill. They had a surface fire in the automotive shredder residue, also known as ASR, for about an hour before it was out. Because of the heat risk, they already had water trucks on standby, and those were used. After it was out, the Cache Creek Fire Department inspected it to make sure that it was well and out, and the landfill covered it with dirt, and there has been no problem with it since. Mr. Jays and myself were there on a landfill inspection the day before, and we did ask several questions about their wildfire preparations. And before we knew that they had had a fire, I did notice them spraying the ASR material several times while we were sitting in the truck discussing their wildfire preparedness. So that was good to see. They did have several water trucks standing by just in case they have such a problem. What else did we talk about? The ASR is a trial period, and it has been extended to 2022. It's not currently an acceptable municipal solid waste material, which is why it is a trial material. Belcorp wants to see if it's cost effective before applying to have their permit changed. And their landfill gas efficiency has increased by 3%, but it may have been non-efficient because of their sump pump 1, which has been replaced 4 times now. The post-closure work from last year's budget came in $35,000 under budget, the budget being $891,000. So the total was $856,000. Next meeting is October 20th at 2 p.m. Anybody have any questions?
I just have one concerning the fire suppression protocols. Do we know if they have a plan, Christina, you might be able to answer this, in place in conjunction with the Village of Ashcroft and Village of Cache Creek Fire Departments? As we know that they have control over what goes into the landfill, but they don't have total control. So given that there could be dangerous goods in there that if they did catch fire could be toxic to firefighters, do we know if there's any kind of plan in place?
No, I'm not aware.
Do you know of any set plan other than water?
We can ask.
I thought I reviewed emergency response plan with the operations contractor, but I don't know if that was in conjunction with the local fire departments.
Might be a conversation to have with the fire department. Maybe my concerns are unfounded, I don't know, but to me it would be something to look at.
Yes, it's a good idea.
We have a mover for the recommendation.
So moved.
Second, do we have discussion? All,
I'll second. Second.
For both, or?
we're just doing the...
The first one.
The first one. Okay. All in favor? Unanimous. Do we have a mover for the second recommendation?
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Lisa?
In favor.
Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you. Emergency Management Committee, Councillor Defoe and Councillor Peters.
Just an update, the village staff and myself have been listed, along with members of the fire department, have been in on wildfire situation calls or wildfire update calls every day at 11. We, along with Ashcroft, have now passed that danger, and Wallachine have passed that danger zone. It is moving more in a southeasterly. Our Tremont fire is moving southeast. We do have the very large fire suppression crews, BC Wildfire crews, at the park, and they have now moved back into the community hall with their command center. We also had a group of volunteers that did a baking bee for evacuees that was extremely, considering it happened in a very short period of time. There were lots of donations, and the recipients, the evacuees that received them, the report I got was it was amazing. There were tears. So it's pretty exciting. It makes me proud to be from Cache Creek because it just went out on Facebook and at the post office and a few other places around town, and we had as much as we could handle. So that was awesome.
The evacuees have told ESS and all of my workers the same. They were very grateful for Cache Creek's support, and they appreciate everything we've done.
It's nice to hear. Thank you. Anything further under emergency management? Information correspondence? Seeing none, new business? Questions from the public? Questions from the press? Okay, motion to move into closed.
So moved.
Second, discussion, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.